In the sunshine of the south of France, this is a crucial weekend in Fanatec GT2 European Series, the final two races of the year here at the Paul Ricard circuit, David Addison trackside, and the grid starting to form in readiness of the first of the two 50-minute races that we have, both today. One bright and early this morning, one at the end of the evening, to determine the championship, which has in the AM class already been sewn up by Henri Hassan. But as far as the Pro-Am is concerned, it's going to go right down, not just to this race, but the final race later on in the day, between Nicolas Sailens and his regular co-driver of the season, Stinus Longin, versus the KTM driver Stefan Rossina, who has done the whole season, and although he's had different co-drivers, is still very much in the mix. They've had 4 wins apiece, but a point for pole position for Nicolas Sailens in qualifying yesterday helps them a little bit further. The championship then coming down to the wire. This circuit, fantastic circuit for GT cars because they can stretch their legs along the far sections of the circuit. There are some technical twisty elements to the track as well. And it is a venue that just about everybody enjoys coming to. The grid then starting to take shape with the cars lining up on the 2x2 grid with the KTM starting on pole position, the number 15 KTM, which is the car that is driven by Filip Sladecka and Stefan Rossina. That's the car, I should say, that got the point for pole position, so it helps them even further in the title race. Going into this first 50-minute race with points awarded in each class down to 10th position. The sun is shining, there's barely a cloud in the sky. This is how they line up then, with the start driver being the driver that set the qualifying time. So it is Filip Sladecka who will start in the true racing KTM, Nicolas Sailens alongside, and that's the championship battle. On the second row of the grid, the very experienced Gilles Vannelet, making his debut in the KTM Crossbow GT2 for Reiter Engineering, and the AM champion Henri Hassan lining up alongside. Peter Gulink's car with Bert Longin will start on the third row of the grid. Chris Rosenberger alongside. Then you've got Leonardo Gorini and Klaus Angerhofer. Next up, Kevin Wieder will go first, and it is Gianluca Giorgi to line up alongside. And then you've got Aurelius Rustica at the back of the grid, and alongside him is going to be Stefan Rettel, the CEO, of course, and the founder of SRO Motorsports Group, the man that's come up with this GT2 concept, and he will share that car with his Italian neighbour Luca Piri, one of the many on the grid that is an LP Racing entry. So, on the grid, KTM starting on pole position, and Filip Sladecka, who's joined the championship late in a sense, but is a very, very competitive driver, and certainly a man to watch in the first stint to see whether he can build an advantage. Now, because he hasn't done every race this year, he comes into the championship showdown, of course, with a disadvantage because he's on a different number of points to Stefan Rossina, so he can't win the title, but what he can do is play a very, very important role, which is to help his co-driver to take the championship. But this car is going to be strong. Nicolas Sailens with Stinus Longin, the son of Bert Longin that you'll get to in the second stint. He shares with Peter Gulinks, but the Audi, another very strong car. It's fascinating to see the difference here because you've got, if you like, the mainstream GT brands like Porsche, like we've had this year Lamborghini or Mercedes AMG and Audi, all building cars to GT2 regulations, and then something so different, the lightweight, almost futuristic looking KTM, which is so rapid. It's a very light car, and the turbocharged engine helping it. So there was a thought that round here it might be just a little bit breathless, but in qualifying yesterday, far from it. So the countdown continues. It will, of course, be a rolling start. And in a few moments' time, there is the green flag to release the cars. They set off now. Filip Sladecka then, who's been a regular GT racer over the years in things like Lamborghini Super Trofeo, in the German GT Championship. We saw him in FIA GT3 as well. And he's been a TCR touring car racer of years late. So he is going to be the man on pole position with 4 wins. And then Nicolas Sailens lining up alongside as this formation that gets underway. Nicolas Sailens, another experienced GT racer. He's raced in the Benelux Porsche GT3 Championship, runner-up in the Belgian Endurance Championship. He has actually won that championship in the past as well. He's been very, very successful in, if you like, national races over the years, but then along with Stinus Longin stepping up to GT2 this year, and they've had a really good season, these two drivers, with the Audi partnership having taken race wins at Imola, also at the most recent round in Valencia. They had a win, 2 in Misano. So it's been a successful season for the Belgian combination of drivers. They're at the back of the grid. Aurelius Rustica, the man from Lithuania, who shares with Michael Vergers, and Michael's task is to get that car back into the mix. But Aurelius Rustica, the pressure is going to be on to a degree not to lose time early on. They've had a really unlucky season. A class win, yes, at the first event at Imola. They've never had an outright win. And if there's any bad luck going, it seems to be thrown in the way of Aurelius Rustica and Michael Vergers. So let's see how things fare over this last day of the championship as they weave around along the Mistral Straight now to try to get the warmth into the Pirelli rubber on which everybody runs in Fanatec GT2 European Series. There is, of course, the separate AM battle to look for, where Henri Hassard has been very much the dominant driver this year. He's already won the championship with 6 class wins, but that's not to suggest that he's going to have it all his own way, because Gilles Vannelet, who is new to the championship this weekend, but again, a hugely experienced driver. He's raced in GT3, he's won the European GT3 Championship, he's raced in the French GT Championship, you name it. If it's got a roof on and it's a GT-style car, Gilles Vannelet would have raced it. He is going to be a real force to be reckoned with, having taken the class pole position yesterday. So the cars now then turn their way up through that very, very fast right-hander of Signet. They're going through the shot was Gilles Vannelet, weaving around and get the warmth into the tyres. You've got there the Porsche going through of Leonardo Gorini. And Gorini has been there or thereabouts in the AM class all season. That car running in the pseudo-worked colours of seasons past from Porsche 956, 962 days, the Rothmans colour scheme. And you've also got Gianluca Giorgi's Porsche as well. So, of course, the brands building cars for GT2. It's been a bit of a slow burn, you could argue, over the last couple of years, but so was GT4. And then when that caught on, it just absolutely exploded with so many more cars joining the grid. And I'm confident that GT2 will be the same. There's going to be a class for the cars next year within the 24 hours of Spa. So much effort is being put into building the championship and attracting drivers. If you're a pro, it's a good category to go racing. If you're an AM, you get lots of track time, great cars, great venues. They have already this year been to Imola, they've been to the Red Bull Ring, to Misano, to Spa, to Valencia, and now to Paul Ricard. And this first 50-minute race then is set to get underway. The leading car brings the field then now up through the Virage de la Tour, down towards the Virage du Pont. It will peel into the pit lane, and then it's going to be that drag down towards the first corner. The race director, Alain Adon, will give the call. There is, of course, the mandatory pit stop window between 25 and 35 minutes. It's 93 seconds for the standard pit stop, but the top 3 from the previous race carry extra time in the pits. We'll counter that in a moment because the race is about to get underway. The penultimate round then of Fanatec GT2 European Series from Paul Ricard. As the lights change, we go racing. And as Henri Hassard leaps out of the draft, tries to gain ground, Nicholas Salins is on his toes as well. They're going to be 4 wide down towards the first corner. And a great start by the number 17 KTM of Klaus Angerhofer that goes right round the outside there in a spin. Is that Vannelet that's got it wrong? There's contact. It was Vannelet. He got collected, I'm sure, by somebody going past him. Also delayed Leonardo Gorini. So they sort themselves out. And after all of that, what is going to be the order? Well, it was Angerhofer, remarkably, from the 4th row of the grid that got the drop on everybody, but he might not be ahead anymore as they turn their way now. Oops, another spin. And that off the road is yet another of the KTMs having a pretty torrid first lap. I was about to say Aurelius Rustica has made good progress. He kept out of harm's way as there you see Kevin Weider, number 1 in the Brabham, go through now. He in turn has got Stefan Rattel on his tail, so there's been a real shuffle from the grid. And in fact, the KTM that spun is Filip Sladecka. So Filip Sladecka from the front row of the grid trying to give the championship for Stefan Rossina has spun, and that now really does throw things up in the air. Race leaders make their way along the Mistral Straight for the first time. They've got the chicanes to cope with as well, so as they turn their way through, now the cars wriggle up through the first of the chicanes on the Mistral Straight. You go left, you go right, you go left again, you get back onto the power. And there's still a lot of straight left as some rather nervous faces look on in the True Racing garage because they can see now the championship is becoming very, very difficult because it's an Audi in the lead. So Nicholas Salins is getting away, and those delayed KTMs, look, they all seem to be in strife, trying to play catch-up. So Klaus Angerhofer's car did pick up damage. And looking to see, yes, I think Chris Rosenberger got involved in that as well because he's not made it through to the end of the first sector yet. So he's clearly got a big, big problem as the leaders turn their way up towards the end of the opening lap with Nicholas Salins trying to get away. Aurelius Rustica, having kept out of trouble, has also made good progress on this first lap. And so It is going to be the PK Car Sport teammates coming up towards the end of the lap 1 and 2 with just in the lead. No, it's not. It's going to be an LP Racing Audi in second place, forgive me. That is Henri Hassad in second spot, but it is Nicholas Salens who leads the way. Now, he will have to serve an extra 7 seconds in the pit lane on that mandatory stop by dint of being second in the last race. He comes over the timing line now. So, end of lap 1, Nicholas Salens leads, Henri Hassad second, Peter Gulick's third. So it's a PK Car Sport 1-3. Fourth is Aurelius Rustica. Kevin Wheeler in the Brabham is fifth. Gianluca Giorgi is sixth. And there is Chris Rosenberger out of the race. So that does explain that was the car that got caught up in the spin of Klaus Angerhofer on the first lap and has picked up damage. And there a change for the race lead. Henri Hassad goes through on the inside line. He did win outright at Imola in the opening round of the championship, and he might do it again here. He will have to serve 10 seconds in the pits, but if he can build 3 of those over the Audi behind him, then he should still be in the pound seat after the pit stops. Filip Sladecka then went over the timing line in 9th place, and he's on a mission. Now, bear in mind, you score points in your class, not for your overall place. So right now, Sladecka is running in 6th in class. There's chance to gain ground before the end of the 46 3/4 minutes. Into the pits, Gilles Vannelet after his spin. So the car went around, as you saw, it got collected by Chris Rosenberger, but it was an independent spin for Filip Sladecka. Replay at the start. Now have a look on the outside line. Chris Rosenberger, Klaus Angerhofer, number 17, up from the 4th row of the grid. An extraordinary start. They were 4 wide into the corner. Now look at 24, Gilles Vannelet on the inside. He turns in. Now, was there contact? Certainly it looked as though Peter Gulick's had to stand on the brakes. There definitely was contact as the car went around. Just being able to avoid contact, you saw 911, which was Leonardo Gorini. So Chris Rosenberger's car, the one that was collected by the spinning Vannelet, who then rejoined. But whether Gilles Vannelet was tagged into that incident, it was rather hard to gauge. If he wasn't, it was close. So the incident between Vannelet and Rosenberger has been noted by race control. And this is Henri Hassad then, who is getting away up front. But now the real attention is on, if you like, Nicholas Salens to try to preserve his class lead. But what progress Filip Sladecka can make in order to give Stefan Rossina a chance to fight back in the second stint of the race, especially given that they have to serve 10 seconds in the pits. Over the timing line there, look, through go Gulick's and also Salens side by side. Peter Gulick's trying to find a way through into second place then, and he has done so. Number 81 through on the inside line. Peter Gulick's up from the 3rd row of the grid. And he got that done just before they hit the yellow flag zone, where the car of Chris Rosenberger is being moved out of harm's way. Now, the lead gap when they went across the line was 1.7 seconds. So Henri Hassad is getting away from Gulick's, and he goes deep there, look, wriggling his way down out of a hotel down towards Virage du Camp. Now through Saint-Baume they turn, back onto the power, onto the Mistral straight, speed building up towards that first chicane. Now, Peter Gulick has done the fastest lap of the race thus far, but I get the feeling that Filip Sladecka, assuming he's got no damage, ought to be able to improve upon that, but he'll be absolutely kicking himself after that spin. What he now needs is a safety car to bring him back in the mix. Well, Chris Rosenberger's car has been moved out of harm's way, so for the moment that denies any suggestion that there would be an interruption to the race. And of course, Paul Ricard, with all of the different access roads, means that it's very easy to keep a race going. So there through is Nicholas Salens. He has now dropped to 2nd in class. Ironically, behind his teammate, it's the sister car that's taking points off number 11 here. However, Filip Sladecka is still on a charge lower down the order, and he's hustling on behind Stefan Rattel for a place in class in Pro-Am. The field turning its way out of Le Beausset, then up towards Bendor. They wriggle their way through that sweeping corner section up towards the Virage de la Tour, and then down to the almost stop-start Virage du Pont at the end of the lap. Really hard braking required for this tight right, out of which now comes Henri Hassad, and he powers his way onto the pit straight. Over the timing line. So Henri Hassad leads the way, goes through with in 2nd spot now Peter Gulick. The margin between them is 1.4 seconds. That time around, Gulick's lap quicker. So Henri Hassad, the leader, perhaps coming under attack. Fastest lap of the race now being set by Nicholas Salens, who likewise is on a big mission. And now Filip Sladecka goes across the line, and he goes faster than anybody. So Sladecka, who is running in 8th place, getting quicker all the time. Now, the last lap that was done by the race leader was a 2 minutes 8.8, and Sladecka 2 minutes 8.0. So demonstrably the quickest man on the circuit, Filip Sladecka. That's the man that leads on track. Henri Hassad, who goes through with Peter Gulick chasing after him. The margin 1.4 seconds. But it is Sladecka chasing after now Gianluca Giorgi. That is the one to watch for 7th place. Plenty of nervous faces up and down the pit road, as there, heading towards us now, is Kevin Wheeler in the Brabham, Aurelius Rustica behind him, look, in the Audi. That's 4th and 5th. Then you've got Leonardo Gorini's Porsche just ahead of the Gianluca Giorgi Porsche next up, and Gorini has a look to the inside of Rustica. Remember, Aurelius Rustica up from the back row of the grid, and now running in 5th place, so giving Michael Vergers a chance perhaps in the second stint to have a go, but losing out coming out of the chicane. Round the outside of him there, look, goes Leonardo Gorini's Porsche. That's the inside for Senior. Through on the inside line goes number 911, and the 911 goes by. There is, in the Mock Martini colours, Gianluca Giorgi, now trying to fend off, look, Filip Sladecka. So that orange KTM is the one to watch. Fighting for a championship, he's trying to get himself up through the traffic here. Sladecka has got the AM-class cars ahead, so they're not actually doing anything for his points tally, but he's got to get past them, and now he does so in order to try to get onto terms with the class opposition. Goes around the outside of Gianluca Giorgi, and we have a report that Peter Gulick has had a spin at turn 10 and rejoined. So Peter Gulick's car 81 spun and rejoined at turn 10. So the man that was second throws the car down the order. Rustica under attack from Sladecka, who's going to have a go maybe into the Virage Dupont, lines up for the inside line, does commit, does go through. Filip Sladecka goes by. So a good lap for Sladecka, and it means now that Hassad leads. Nicholas Salins is back up into 2nd place and is under investigation for his start. Nicholas Salins under investigation for the start. Peter Gulick runs 3rd, Wheeler is 4th, Gorini 5th, Sladecka is up into 6th place. There he is, recovering after his spin. So 10 minutes of the race just about done, and now comes the news that the number 11 Audi that was on the outside of the front row is under investigation for its start. So the officials will have a look to see whether it was too slow and causing people to go slowly behind, whether it was too quick and therefore was a jump start, or whether it was all fine. So in the pit garages there are conversations to be had. So the Sarmini waiting for his turn to jump on board a car, and number 11 is being given a 5-second penalty to take at the next pit stop for a false start. So Nicholas Salins, who already had a 7-second penalty, now has to take a further 5 for a false start. So the race officials have had a look, very quickly made the decision. So Steve Burns, the chairman of the stewards panel, with his colleagues, comes down on the side of a transgression of the regulations from Nicholas Salins, and a further 5 seconds to be served. The 7 seconds is the success penalty that the top 3 carry, but the 5 is the penalty for the false start. So it's going to drop him down the order, and it's going to help certainly Filip Sladecka to fight back. Sladecka still on a mission. That's the Brabham, fantastic sounding car, the Brabham that goes through the BT63. Kevin Wheeler ahead of Leonardo Gorini, and then you've got Filip Sladecka chasing on behind. Now the pit window will open in about 4 minutes time, in 15 minutes time, and one of the elements of this is that where you've got your slower driver in first, you get him in early and put the faster driver in to maximise the available amount of track time that they can do. So as the leader comes through now, over the timing line goes Henri Hassad, and the lead that he's got is now 4.6 seconds. Change of pace is imminent for Filip Sladecka, who easily gets the drive off the corner, and Leonardo Gorini has got a problem, hasn't he? That Porsche was so slow. Yes, he has got a problem. So Leonardo Gorini looks as though something has broken in the transmission, maybe coming out of the Virage Dupont, and very un-Porsche-like, the car grinds to a halt. Henri Hassad has now done the fastest lap of the race, a 2 minutes 7.9 as he presses on. You look there at Gianluca Giorgi. So dramas for Leonardo Gorini, who has not made it to the timing line. He's just coasted over it now, in fact, as I say that, but clearly with a big problem. Kevin Wheeler is being warned about track limits. The perennial problem at a circuit like this of track limit abuses, as you look at Henri Hassad leading by 4.6 seconds, and Filip Sladecka recovering all the time here. So through turns, Hassad. makes his way now once more onto the Mistral straight. In the background, you can see Nicholas Salins with this Damocletian penalty to serve. Third, his teammate Peter Gulix after his spin, and then it's a long, long wait before Kevin Wieder comes through, the American driver who's been a regular historic racer this year, as well as modern GT cars, very quick in the Monaco historic event, for example, as there is Stefan Rattel. So where is the governor in the order at the moment? He's in 9th place in the Audi. He's not done every race this year because of pressures of work. He's also had an outing back at the Red Bull Ring in the Mercedes AMG that was great to see on the grid. So Stefan with Luca Piri slotting in his racing when he can, really, with so many championships to run, with the FIA Motorsport Games here in a fortnight's time taking up rather a lot of attention of the SRO staff. Stefan not being able to commit necessarily to go racing every weekend when he would like to, but it's good to have him on track this weekend. As over the timing line then goes Henri Hassan once more, another lap in the book, and an even quicker one now, 2 minutes 7.826, fastest lap of the race. How does that compare with the Sladecka lap? We'll see in a moment when he comes over the timing line. So Henri Hassan turns his way now over the curb, down through the Virage du Camp in a moment. The very experienced Henri Hassan, who's been racing for well over 20 years, goes back to the days of Formula Ford, Formula Renault in this country, but in GT cars, touring cars, sports cars, you name it, he's raced it. Battle is on for 2nd place, battle is on for 4th place now as well. So you've got the 2 Audis together for 2nd, you've got Brabham versus KTM now for 4th, and Sladecka has gone even quicker than Henri Hassan to do the fastest lap of the race by 1/10 of a second, 2 minutes 7.731. Philip Sladecka trying to redeem himself here. Stefano Rossini will be watching all of this, thinking if ODU hadn't spun. But equally, you can see the way that the KTM is fighting back, and also fighting back now is Peter Gulix. He is on the tail of Nicholas Salins. Philip Sladecka to the inside line against Kevin Wieder. He's going to line him up for a move coming down towards the chicane. Brakes late, goes through. So the KTM rides the curb, turns left, turns right, but Sladecka easily through on the inside line. Now that puts him up to 4th overall, and it puts him 3rd in class. Remember that Henri Hassan, the race leader, is the kind of joker in the pack because he's out of the AM category, although he's an AM plus in many ways. So he, in terms of his point score, doesn't affect this car of Philip Sladecka. So 35 minutes of the race to go. Confirmation that number 911 of Leonardo Guarini has been retired, the team confirming that. With a mechanical problem, so Leonardo Guarini is out of the race, and Chris Rosenberger out of the race as well with damage. So once more, the Philip Sladecka KTM turns its way towards the completion of the lap, heading now down towards the Virage du Pont, where you stand on the brakes, you go down, 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 down through the gears. First gear in some cars to drag the car out of the corner. That is Guarini in the pits, but looks as though all the concern, as you can see, is around that right rear corner. So it just seemed to be no drive as the 911 tried to come out of that final turn. Another fastest lap of the race done by Henri Hassan, and then what can Philip Sladecka do on that lap? Slightly slower, but he did have to get himself through traffic. Now for 2nd place, this is getting even more interesting. Nicholas Salins versus Peter Gulix. They've had a go each at being in 2nd place. I wonder if Gulix has got the message that actually you're not helping your teammate here. You could argue that it's every man for himself, although Peter Gulix's co-driver Bert Langin does have a vested interest, of course, because it's his son, Stinus Langin, sharing with Nicholas Salins and going for the championship. Looking down onto the circuit, fantastic view that. You can see the red and blue paint that is there for the friction to stop cars going too far off the road. Look at the damage as well on the inside left front corner of Nicholas Salins' car, picked up early on in the race. All of that red and white paint, as I say, is there to stop cars from spinning off too far. It's extra friction to try and reduce them. Rather than putting gravel traps everywhere, you have that painted surface instead. A disappointed Leonardo Guarini trudges away from the retired Porsche. And Philip Sladecka now, having got himself up past Kevin Wieder, is getting away with alacrity here, pulling clear as he turns now into the right-hander of Senior. There are the 2 Audis. Peter Gulix still not quite able to find a way up past Nicholas Salins. Now, what about the pit stops? Because 81 will not have to serve any extra time in the pit. So Gulix could just sit there and still take over the position and therefore take over the class lead when they serve the mandatory stops, which will be coming up in about 7 minutes' time or so. It looks as though Gulix has got the pace, doesn't it? Because he's brought himself right back onto the tail now of Nicholas Salins, but he doesn't want to commit to a move there and risk putting either of the cars in jeopardy. So up towards the timing line once more they come. Over the line goes Salins, over the line goes Gulix. And that is the race leader, Henri Hassad, who is clear now by 11 seconds. So even allowing for his 10-second success penalty in the pits, he should still come out ahead. The incident in turn 1, no further investigation necessary. It was just, therefore, one of those things. So the race officials, Henri Hassad, another fastest lap of the race. As the car gets lighter on fuel, it's getting quicker all the time. For second and third places, they come now down towards the Virage du Camp. There is Philippe Sladecka closing on them all the time. So last time around, it was a 2 minutes 10 from Salins. It was a 2 minutes 9 from Gulix and a 2 minutes 7 from Sladecka. So that gap continues to come down. It will not be long before the KTM there, you can see in the background, is hustling on behind and he's up with them. Now he's 20 seconds behind Henri Hassad. So it is going to be a big gap after the pit stops. But let's see what Stefano Rossina, who's another hugely experienced driver, can do about that margin. Second and third now about to turn their way into the right-hander here of Signy. That short straight, and then down towards Le Beausset. It's a corner where you've got to be patient because it goes on and on and on. You sort of go deep into the first part of it, then cut across and get the clipping point for the second element. Stinus Langin is good to go. So the pit window imminent, and therefore drivers getting themselves ready. Final word with the team, and he might be able to gain some guidance, of course, from Nicholas Salins when he comes in, just about the state of the car and the state of the track. But this is, of course, one of those situations where being a solo driver does help. You know what the car is like into the second stint. You know what the track surface is like into the second stint. The Audi's through once more up towards the line. Henri Hassad is about to go through and goes over the timing line now with the Audis behind second and third. The margin between those two, 4/10 of a second. So Gulix, having done the hard work of getting onto the tail of Salins, I think may now have got the message: do not attack. You'll get ahead on the pit stops, and the last thing that the team needs is for the car fighting for the championship to get turfed off the road after involuntary contact. 20 minutes of the race now done. Hassad 13 seconds clear of the Audis. Nicholas Salins arguably dropping back because he's having to defend from Gulix. Now, if his pace is being compromised, just let him go. Other drivers getting themselves ready in the pit lane. There'll be Bert Langin to take over in number 81. There will be Stinus Langin, his son, to take over number 11. 81 is the Audi with the yellow mouth, if you like. The red mouth, again, Belgian colours, is on the car of Nicholas Salins, and there they are, second and third. Pit window is now open. So the, oh dear, very smoky Stefan Rattel Audi is in. That's for Stefan to give way to Luca Piri. But is that car going to be able to go back out? Why is it so smoky? Is that purely because it's been hot and bothered? Or is there something rather more fundamental? That would be, again, a big surprise if it were to be a mechanical problem, because those Audis have largely been bulletproof this year, but the team a bit concerned. The officials likewise, the fire unit there just in case, and Stefan has put Luca Piri into the car. I think that smoke will go. It does as the car gets back into cool air. I think it was purely that. It had been running hot and then came to a stop. So number 88 rejoins. And that's 67 Henri Hassad then to get across the timing line. Now, don't forget, of course, that when it comes in, Nicholas Salins' car, to give way to Stinus Langin, will have to serve that extra 5 seconds. It's a 93-second pit stop, line to line, plus, if you are in that position, the success time added onto the top of it. Nicholas Salins is in, we're being told. Peter Gulinks is in as well, and Kevin Wheeler is in to give way to Anders Fjordbak. So the drivers that you've got in the cars for the second stint, in many cases, not all, but many, the quicker. It's going to be a really interesting fight then going into this second part of the race with just under 28 minutes still on the clock, as there you've got Henri Hassad, who is looking oh so good, is he not, for an AM category win here. He comes on to the Mistral straight, and the pit stop cycle through. So there, Bert Langin aboard number 81, Peter Gulinks, who's only really been racing for about 3 seasons, but has learnt quickly, strapped him in. Bert Langin, who has been a Zolder 24 Hours winner, Spa 24 Hours winner, mainstay of FIA GT racing many, many years ago. He will rejoin shortly. And it's the sister car, remember, that his son takes over that will have to serve the extra time in the pits, partly because of success from the last race in Valencia, but also because of the penalty that it accrued at the start of the race for a false start. So there, absolutely out on his own, is Henri Hassad. There's a little bit wide maybe there coming out of Le Beausset, but Henri Hassad is able to drive around that. It's interesting that he's chosen to do the entire season on his own, because quite often at the end of a second race, he's talked about how tiring it is, how hard work it is in the car doing 2 races, especially 2 in a day, and that's what they've got here. The timetable is a compact one. Many of the gentlemen racers, they try and cram everything in for them so they're not away from home for too long of a weekend. The flip side of that coin is it's quite a demanding day. Yesterday they did the free practice and qualifying, today 2 races, but they are bookended, so it does take some of the physical demands off the driver. Over the line goes Henri Hassad, and as he goes through there you can see just rejoining ahead the number 7 Porsche. So that now is driven by Alessandro Baccani. Baccani we saw join the championship in Valencia and continues then to drive with Gianluca Giorgi this weekend. Now that is Henri Hassad, the race leader. He's therefore put a lap on some, but that is going to be given back in the sense that when he pits, they'll put themselves back onto the lead lap. Down from the drone, you can see the cars coming out of the chicane on the Mistral straight. There is Henri Hassad. So having been saying he's a soloist, he has been a soloist for the bulk of the season. This weekend, his son Maxime driving with him for the first time. So with the championship won, Henri could be magnanimous about this and let Hassad Jr. have a go in the car. And Maxime Hassad will take over into the second stint. And that's going to be intriguing to see what he can do to match the pace of his father, and therefore where that car is going to come in the final classification. Out of Le Beausset comes Hassad Senior. So an increasing number of Père et Fils within the championship. There you've got then the leading Audi up towards the completion of the lap. And is therefore Henri Hassad going to come in this time, or is he going to go to the very, very end of the window and try and maximise what is available to him? Stefan Rossina getting ready as well. So the race leader up towards the timing line once more. So, yeah, Henri Hassad continues to rather monopolise that car. Another lap completed. And we await Filip Sladecka to come in the True Racing KTM to give way to Stefan Rossina. Again, Sladecka's pace has been good, but Henri Hassad looking mighty right now up front. And there, down the pit lane, does indeed come the number 15 KTM then. That quirky bodywork on the KTM that goes up and forward. Out wriggles Filip Sladecka, and then threading his way through the roll cage into the car is Stefan Rossina, leaning over the top of him rather than into the car to do out the belts there and plug all the cables in. And the intercom is Filip Sladecka, and he puts the netting up to protect the driver's arms. And getting in replay shots of Henri Hassad riding the curb in the LP Racing Ran Audi So it's been a lively first stint. A lot has been happening with incidents, with dramas, with penalties. And for the second stint, now you've got this big push from Stefan Rosina to see what he can do about a class win. In a sense, you can ignore number 67 because that's in a separate class. It would be really interesting to see if the car can win outright, but it's going to be the fight between, of course, 11 Audi and 15 KTM that takes up attention going into the second part of the race. Henri Hassad ticking off the laps, still leading the way, yet to pit. Klaus Angerhofer is going to be in second place on the road right now, yet to pit. We've had, have we? Yes, Aurelius Ristica in to give way to Michael Vergers. The pit stop for Stefan Rattal and Luca Piri is under investigation now as well. It might be that was too short in terms of the pit stop time. And Henri Hassad comes into the pits a little hesitantly there as they got to the line and braked and then thought, no, maybe that's not the line, and accelerated away again. But anyway, he's in the pits now, and Henri Hassad down the pit road, and Maxime Hassad gets the signal to go, runs around the car. The team manager of 88 to the race director. So as LP Racing cycle through this pit stop, so the Rattal Piri car, the race director wants the team manager of that. Well, in a sense, the team manager is the man behind the wheel, Luca Piri. He owns the team, but a representative will go up the stairs. Meantime, Maxime Hassad gets in. Now remember, this has got to serve 10 seconds, so the team need to, this is where the car controller comes into his own, the team needs to orchestrate this so that it comes in, they serve the time for the pit stop and that success time as well, and then release the car so that it's absolutely bang on the money, not a 10th under, but a 10th over the pit stop time when it rejoins. We've had a new fastest lap of the race as well, and it's by the Brabham of Anders Fjordbach, which is not a surprise. The reigning Pro-Am champion is absolutely mighty. Right, Papa straps in Maxime Hassad, puts the netting in place. The LP Racing team looks at the stopwatch, say, right, start the engine. But it's all down to releasing the car at the right time so that as you drive down the pit lane, at the pit lane speed limit, you will trip the beam just a 10th of a second over, and not under the pit stop time. Right, now there, still being shown is Filip Stadecka, should now be Stefan Rosina in number 15. And he wants the class lead. So Stefan Rosina is pressing on. And at the end of the next lap, I think pretty much everybody's pit stops will have cycled through. So we'll have the proper order going into the second part of the race. So up towards the timing line comes Rosina. Now he is more experienced in the KTM than Maxime Hassad is in the Audi, so this potentially gives him an advantage. So Hassad is back on track, and Rosina, who is also a lap further into the stint, absolutely hammering along now. So Klaus Angerhofer has pitted as well, and there you can see number 15 of Stefan Rosina. Now that car has dropped back, I think I'm right in saying, behind Anders Fjordbach in the Brabham and also behind Stinus Longchamp. So even though it was 10 seconds in the pits for that car, the time it had lost in the first stint still meant that it rejoined behind Stinus Longchamp with his 7 and his 5 second penalties combined. It therefore means that there's a lot of work still to be done by Stefan Rosina, because he's not yet on terms with Stinus Longchamp, who's just done the fastest lap of the race. That is Alessandro Baccani turning his way up now through Saint-Baume, back onto the power, and the gorgeous-looking Porsche 911 GT2 onto the Mistral straight once again with just 19 minutes of the race to go now. Coming towards us, Michael Vergers. Behind him is Alessandro Baccani. In the background, there is Luca Piri. So this battle at the moment coming through for 6th, 7th places. Right old battle pack here, which involves the PK Car Sport Audis and I think Maxime Hassad, who's dropped behind them, and Anders Fjordbach in the Brabham, who makes a move on the inside line there and goes through, heading up towards Bendor. So you've got at the moment, look, the Bert Longchamp ahead of Stinus Longchamp Audi battle. Anders Fjordbach in the Brabham that makes just the best noise, charging along behind them. So Langin Senior not doing much to help his son in the championship here, because he's keeping Steeners at bay, and both get a little bit crossed up coming out of the Virage du Pont as they brake late and then absolutely nail the throttle coming off the corner. 18 minutes to go, through they turn, and this now is the lead battle, because on the pit stops it is Bert Langin who leads. Steeners Langin second, Anders Feuerbach is third, 1.2 seconds covering them. Maxime Hassad is down to fourth overall. Stefan Rossina is fifth, he's 5 seconds then away from the leader, Stefan Rossina. And if these two carry on holding each other up by squabbling, the KTM has a chance to gain ground. Down they come now into the Virage de l'Hôtel. And Steeners Langin looking as though he's being held up by his dad. He goes through on the inside, but then Bert Langin has to suddenly cut across there. I think he gave the lead to his son, but he's got to make sure he defends from Anders Feuerbach in the Brabham, because that car is looking so fleet of foot right now. It's had one win this year, the Brabham at Misano, and Anders Feuerbach is on a mission right now to get himself up into second place. 17 minutes on the clock. Behind them fourth is Maxime Hassad. He's being reeled in by Stefan Rossina. So first to fifth, 5 seconds. Up to the chicane then, brake hard, turn, into the left, into the right. A little bit deep goes Bert Langin, but his target now is to try and hold up the Brabham and let Steeners Langin escape. So he may have had a play for a lap, but now he's being the good dad and letting Steeners gain the points here. Remember that Maxime Hassad is an AM, so although Stefan Rossina, the other championship protagonist, is fifth, in real terms he's fourth in points. And he's about to go fourth on the road as well, I reckon, because he's just moved himself through on the inside of Maxime Hassad going into Le Bousset. There he is, look, KTM's gone through side by side for second as Anders Feuerbach tries on the outside line, can't do it. But the way that Rossina is going, he's going to be up with these two pretty shortly, and then we'll see what racecraft Langin has got. He's going to make a call about keeping them both behind for as long as he possibly can. Feuerbach then to the outside line. He needs to brake early and try and get the undercut, because going around the outside line puts him in jeopardy, and it doesn't work, look. Gets run up the curb, and so Langin Senior gets the drive off the corner. But Steeners Langin very definitely getting away now as he comes across the timing line. This is really good news, looking for a fifth win of the season. Steeners Langin and Nicolas Salins as they go by. Bert Langin second then, 2.6 seconds back. A further 4/10 back is Anders Feuerbach. And then Stefan Rossina is still 5.8 seconds away from the lead. He's lost a little bit of time on that lap in the traffic, but now he's got a clear road ahead and he's absolutely charging. Michael Vergers has done an absolute best third sector time as he tries to get himself back into the mix in the number 5 Audi. But right now there, look, Feuerbach is the one to watch. He's bringing himself ever closer to the tail of number 81 Audi. And in the background is Stefan Rossina. So he is catching the traffic, but the spin that Filip Sladecka had early on, I'm afraid to say, has cost them dear. Up towards the timing line, they will come at the end of this 16th lap of the race, with still in the lead Steeners Langin, but it could be anybody for second, couldn't it? Langin Senior or Feuerbach, and Rossina is still closing. He's quicker than the pair of them in the first sector. Coming up towards the end of the middle sector now, 38s for Langin Senior and for Feuerbach, and a low 38 for Rossina. He's taken another little bit of time out of that margin. Langin definitely giving away time and holding up the Brabham, but is it for naught? It is, because there goes Feuerbach through on the inside then. Coming through Le Bousset, he's done it. He's gained the place on the inside line. So Anders Feuerbach now goes through. Now he's got 14 minutes in which to catch the race leader. If he can do that and take points away, that of course does help Stefan Rossina, because he's not going to be losing quite so many. It's 25 for a win, and it's 18 for second. So that's 7-point difference between 1 and 2. If the Brabham can take those points away from the Audi, would certainly help it in the championship, because the increments are less the further down the top 10 you go. So now for true racing, the Brabham becomes its friend. Steeners Langin, another fastest lap of the race, 2 minutes 6.1. Over the line goes Anders Feuerbach. That last lap was a 2 minutes 8, but now, of course, he's got a clear circuit in front of him. So this could be the lap on which he does make progress. Steeners Langin, though, totally clear road ahead, looking really strong right now. So there, with 13 minutes on the clock, you can see Bertlangin being caught by Stefan Rosina. Rosina needs, of course, to gain a place because that would give him more points. At the moment, he's on for 12 points. If he gets another place, it's going to be 15. So a gain of 3 would be good, but a loss of 7 would be even better news if the Brabham can take away the race lead from Stinus Longin, and he has just gone quicker in the first sector, so that gap is coming down ever so slightly. And car number 88 is being given a penalty. This is the Rattel Piri car, a stop-and-go penalty of 4 seconds for pitting before the window opened. So the car of Stefan Rattel came in just before the window opened and served the pit stop. So a 4-second stop-go penalty now being given to Luca Piri. Shows there's no favouritism. You can't turn a blind eye to anybody, whether he's the man that is in charge of the championship or not. So Stefan Rattel's car copping a penalty. As you look then now at Stefan Rosina, now look, he's virtually on the back of Bertlangin. How quickly can he get up and past Longin Senior, bearing in mind Bert's son leads the race and is fighting that car for the championship. Stefan Rosina will be wise to this. It is going to be fascinating to see what he can do. The Brabham, in the meantime, hustles along. Lost out in the second sector, however. Normally Anders Fjordbach is the fastest man out there, but right now the very experienced Danish driver for high-class racing is not finding it that easy to match the pace of the Audi. Brabham we saw here last year in the final rounds of Fanatec GT2 European Series, and it's a real fan favourite, just makes the best noise. There's more proof, it goes across the line. 5.8 seconds then is that lead gap, and Rosina, you can see, is closing on Bertlangin, half a second the margin. The Brabham screams its way out of the first sequence of corners at Verrier, and now down towards Virage de l'Hôtel. So Anders Fjordbach, who won the championship last year, he's raced sports prototypes, he's raced GT cars, he's raced in Europe, he's raced in America, you name it, he's been there, very, very quick. Doesn't often make a mistake either, but the fact that Stinus Longin right now is maintaining the gap shows how well Stinus Longin is driving here, although Fjordbach's just taken 3/10 out in the first sector, which is very impressive indeed. Just over 10 minutes of the race to go then as you look at the leader, Stinus Longin heading up towards the chicane. Ever so distinctive Audi engine note propels the R8 LMS GT2 up the other side of the chicane. Bertlangin has just done a personal best, but he's got Rosina, look, crawling all over the back of him. So those two absolutely together now for third place overall. Stinus Longin continues to hold sway and pulled away again in the middle sector. Goes deep into Le Beausset, goes very wide into Le Beausset there. So Stinus Longin putting everything on the line here as he tries to go absolutely flat out to make sure this is a race win. There's drop scores as well in all of this. And on the drop scores right now, the Stefan Rosina entry would lose 8 points, whereas the Longin and Salins entry loses 10. So one of the quirks of drop scores is that you could end the year on the most points, but on the drops actually fall behind and lose the championship. That's why they're so unpopular with many people, but we'll see how it pans out in the second race when they have to factor in those drop scores as well. So over the timing line now goes Stinus Longin. That last lap was a 2-minute 6.2 and a 2-minute 6.1 for Anders Fjordbach. The gap is coming down, but not by enough, I don't think, for that to change within 9.5 minutes. Bertlangin is still third ahead of Stefan Rosina. So it's going Longin's way at the moment, isn't it? Because not only does he keep the race lead, but his dad is hanging on to third place and preventing the KTM from gaining further points. Down to the bottom of the circuit goes the race leader. Now that's your fight for third place. Bertlangin just ahead. Stefan Rosina is about to come into the Virage du Camp, with Bertlangin positioning that car everywhere it needs to be to fend off the KTM right now. So Fjordbach, fastest lap of the race. And that is Stefan Rosina chasing, 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 utterly determined to try to get himself, and he needs to, never mind just be determined to, get ahead of Bertlangin. In the background, in 5th place, Maxime Hassad, who is still leading the AM class as Rosina thinks about the inside line there. Can't find a way through on the inside. Slots back in behind Bertlangin now. There you've got Maxime Hassad still leading the category. So Henri Hassad makes the run, sorry, Maxime Hassad makes the run, force of habit, back onto the Mistral straight, and he is comfortably ahead in class. Alessandro Baccani is second, Hubert Trunkenpolz is third in AM. So Maxime Hassad, who is lapping at the moment in the 2:12, so nowhere near as quick as his dad, but he's not really being caught in the category either, so they're still looking good here for an AM win. It would be a 7th of the year for Henri, and of course a maiden win for Maxime Hassad. Good debut in the championship. Next year they need a car each, don't they? He is being caught by Michael Vergers, but Vergers is in Pro-Am, and he's very much the pro. Very experienced driver, of course, is Michael Vergers. 7.5 minutes on the clock as Maxime Hassad turns his way. They're now out of the Virage de la Tour and on towards the Virage du Pont right now. And Vergers goes through, applied the pressure to Maxime Hassad, who makes a little mistake. Michael Vergers goes through, but calm, calm, calm. Maxime, he still leads the class. Over the timing line, they turn. Now that's the overall race leader, Stinus Langevin. The gap 5.6 seconds last time over Anders Fjordbach, and in the first sector, Fjordbach, blimey, has just taken half a second out of him. So the Brabham is still the quicker of the two, but he's always good in that first sector. This middle sector seemingly is where the Audi has the advantage. You can see what the gap has been like over the last few laps. Rising and falling a little bit, but Anders Fjordbach coming back once more at Stinus Langevin. Only 6.5 minutes on the clock. I can't see him getting there in time in order to threaten for a race win, though. And in the background, look, change of pace, because through into third goes Stefan Rosina. He's finally done it on the inside of Bert Langevin. So that gives him, within the championship, more points. That gives a further 3 to Stefan Rosina, but Bert Langevin comes back at him straight away. Can't do it on the outside at Senior, so the battle is on. But now that Rosina has done it, I think he should be able to get clear. Down towards Le Beausset, turns into the right-hander, and so now starting to break away. Race leaders making their way now towards the completion of the lap. And it will be time for 3 more laps, possibly 4, for this car. Number 11, Stinus Langevin then, up towards the timing line. Race leaders go by. And the margin is down again, 4.9 seconds. Now, the way that the gap is coming down, I'm still not convinced it's going to be enough with 5 minutes to go. But what will be interesting is to see whether Stinus Langevin is able to withstand the pressure if Fjordbach gets onto his tail, even if the message gets through that the gap is coming down. Now, granted, you only have to win by 1,000th of a second, but Stinus Langevin is, for some reason, over those last couple of laps, now junking time. Is that the Brabham is being driven harder? It's more comfortable now as the stint wears on. Is it Stinus Langevin driving a little bit more within himself, trying to make sure he doesn't make any mistakes and get the car to the end and bank some points? Let's see. Back onto the Mistral straight they come. End of sector 1 on that lap. Fjordbach is the quicker, but only by 100th of a second, so they're evenly matched again. Stinus Langevin responding despite the damage sustained earlier on. That car looks as though it is going to be good for the race win. So the cars head towards Senior. This is lap 21. And as they turn their way through, Stinus Langevin looking very good indeed. He's not put a wheel out of line thus far. It was Nicholas Salens that picked up the damage in that first stint, but Stinus Langevin in the middle goes quicker than Fjordbach, so the margin stretches in his favour again. Next car through there, you can see, is now Anders Fjordbach. But that gap, even though it's been down a bit, up a bit, down a lot, I don't think he's going to come down on this lap. So it looks as though, barring a mistake, Stinus Langevin is going to be good up front, and he's going to have time for 2 more laps looking at the clock. So up towards the line he comes, That gives you an idea of the amount of real estate that the Circuit Le Castellet covers, and it's going to be absolutely covered next 2 weeks' time when the FIA Motorsport Games is in town, with so many different disciplines, not just track racing, but lots of different areas of the circuit being used for karting and auto slalom, and the rally stages in the evening here as well. Right now, with a new fastest lap of the race, Stinus Langin getting away from Anders Fjordbach. The gap is back up again to the wrong side of 5 seconds for Fjordbach. Rosina is stuck because he's 14 seconds away from the leader, so third is as good as it gets now for Stefan Rosina. A replay of Stinus Langin riding the curb, tilting the Audi up onto 2 wheels there. Now, the gap is coming down a little bit in Am between Maxime Hassad and Alessandro Baccani, but not enough, I don't think, for the Porsche to get anywhere near before the end of the race, with one more lap to run at the end of this. Here is the lead car then. Out of the chicane comes Stinus Langin. Still pushing on. He's still treating these laps as though, in a sense, they were qualifying laps to try to make sure that that gap prevails over Anders Fjordbach. Stefan Rosina, the other side of the seniors right-hander, still charging along, but after Filip Sladecka's spin early on, they've done well, actually, to recover for a podium. But that pesky Brabham is going to take points away, and they're going to lose out once more to the championship leading car. So the gap grows in the championship. This is a very important 5th win of the year coming up for Stinus Langin and Nicolas Salens. To the timing line comes the Audi. One more lap then for this penultimate race of the championship, and Stinus Langin it is who leads the way, and he's looking so strong up front, isn't he? Turns through, gets back onto the pile, drags the car out the other side, and now makes this run once again down towards the Virage de l'Hôtel, and the margin starting the last lap is 5.2 seconds. He's not going to be caught unless he has an off. So now it's a case of not doing anything silly. He can drive within himself, he can let the gap come down. Now through Saint-Baume he turns, and onto the Mistral straight for the final time. The cars will be back out on track at 10 minutes to 6 this evening for the second race, the championship decider. And that is going to be, for sure, a very lively race indeed. So out of the chicane comes the number 11 Audi, back onto the power, and now the run along the straight up towards senior. Back onto the Mistral comes Stinus Langin. Win number 5 beckons for the young Belgian driver. You can see in the background Anders Fjordbach, who along with Kevin Wieder is going to take 2nd place, and then 3rd Stefan Rosina with Filip Sladecka, who will be a little bit red-faced, I should think, after that spin. Whether they would have been able to take the race win is a moot point, but certainly a lot of time lost early on. And try as Sladecka might, they couldn't make all of it up again, could they, after the dramas sustained early on in this opening race of the weekend in Fanatec GT2 European Series. The checkered flag is being made ready. The lead car hustles its way now down towards the final sequence of corners, heading towards the Virage de la Tour and then down towards Virage du Pont. It is going to be a race win, the 5th of the year for the PK Car Sport Audi team, for Nicolas Salens and Stinus Langin. They win at Paul Ricard, and that could well be the decisive race within the championship, because it extends the margin over Stefan Rosina with 1 race to go. So delighted Nicolas Salens celebrates in Anglo-Saxon terms, and in 2nd place Anders Fjordbach comes across the line 4.2 seconds back, so the gap did come down a little towards the end, but not enough to allow him to challenge. And then finishing in 3rd place, Stefan Rosina. That is also the order in Pro-Am. And then for 4th place, it will be Bert Langin and Peter Gulinks. And another yo-yo race for them, really, with Peter Gulinks having had an off early on in his stint, but then also being able to fight back impressively Fifth across the line, Michael Vergers and Aurelius Ristica, and that top 5 locks out the Pro-Am class. There you can see the race winner, but in 6th, the Am winner, and that will be now just crossing the line. In fact, Maxime Hassad, along with Father Henri. Second is going to go the way of Alessandro Baccani and Gianluca Giorgi. And for third in the class, it will be Hubert Trunkenpolz, along with Klaus Angerhofer. So, bravo, Stinus Longin, says Bert Longin as he drives past. Stinus Longin taking the fastest lap of the race. And Maxime Hassad, a great debut in the championship then. A first win for him and a 7th win of the season for his father. So a very, very popular outcome, no doubt, for the LP racing team. There, Aurelius Ristica and Michael Vergers, Audi coming through, that car taking 5th overall, 5th in class. And if you're wondering why it's such a slow in-lap for Stinus Longin, what he's trying to do is make sure he has as much pickup on the tyres for the weight and for the ride height. Doesn't want to be using any extra fuel here to make the car light on the fuel, so it's almost too light at the end. There's got to be a given amount for a fuel sample as well, so he needs to be careful of that. So it's a very nice, slow, controlled, gentle in-lap. That's the whole plan here. And Maxime Hassad, well, he has done relatively little racing, but a very, very good GT2 debut that. I think Dad will be pretty pleased, especially seeing that he hung on to that class lead and brings the car through for honours. So we'll have the 2 podiums to come for the class winners. One for Pro-Am, one for Am. And then, in 1 or 2 cases, work to be done before the cars hit the track again this evening for a race that will be heading not into darkness necessarily, but certainly it will be quite a cool finish to the race. Gets chilly in the evenings, and the race for the GT2 cars, as I say, 10 to 6 this evening. So as the cars come into the pit lane, there you have the KTM, and Philippe Staletska, as I say, will be very disappointed, very mindful of the error. Has that cost them the championship? Well, time will tell. You never know what the sting in the tail could be here. And plus, of course, drop scores needing to be factored in. Aurelius Ristica, Michael Vergers' car down the pit road as well after its efforts. So the top 3 in the 2 classes arrive at the foot of race control. Drivers in a moment will be received by the SRO team and taken in due course up to the podium.
I need to take the driver weight.
There you can see the officials making sure that the team of various cars don't go touch them, because they have to be under parc fermé conditions once they've arrived into the pit lane, if they're required for the podium. And therefore post-race scrutineering. There, number 88 Audi. Now, I'm not entirely sure that ever actually served its stop-go penalty. I don't, it did. I tell you a lie, it did make a second stop, so it did come in and serve it. As there is a very, very happy PK Carsport team. And for Stinus Longin and Nicolas Salens, it's win number 5. And like I say, that could well be the win that sets them up for the championship. Time will tell. Race 2 coming up later on in the day, but right now, celebrations for Stinus Longin. Fantastic drive, that. And he congratulates the team for a job well done. Steps out of the car and handshakes all round. So bravo to the race-winning combination of Stinus Longin and Nicolas Salens. And the drivers will be weighed. The cars will head to the scrutineering area for the post-race technical checks, and then the drivers will be taken to the podium. This SRO Racing Festival, which is a monster weekend of activity. There, Henri and Maxime Hassad taking that class win, discussing who did what to which and to whom, and how tough a stint it was for Maxime. As I say, still learning, but responding well to the guidance of his dad and to the rest of the team. So, mixed race for the LP Racing squad, with one of the cars being given a penalty for the error in the pits, but the other car coming through for the AM win. And at True Racing, they've also got some work to do now, what with the damage done to a couple of cars early on. So shame we never really saw the best out of Gilles Vannelet, with his damage putting him out of the race. A shame that we lost also the car of Chris Rosenberger and Sedi Sarmini. But those two, sadly, will, having had damage in this race, back on track for race 2. So Podium is coming up. First, though, let's have a look at the highlights of race 1 of the weekend for GT2. It all began with a demon getaway from the 4th row of the grid. From number 17, a car in the hands of Klaus Angerhofer. But the net result was there was contact diving into the first corner, and Gilles Vannelet, who'd qualified well, came off badly. And coming off even worse, I'm afraid to say, was the car of Chris Rosenberger and Sedi Sarmini, which collected the spinning Vannelet. And there was instant disappointment at True Racing. And that was to get worse, with Philippe Zdadecka spinning out of the race lead, and that cost them dear. So, Henri Hassad led, with a battle going on behind between Nicolas Salins and Peter Gulinks, the two PK Carsport Audis, trading places as they squabble their way up through the chicane. An early retirement, though, was Leonardo Gorini. His Porsche going no further. As on track now with a demanding advantage was Henri Hassad. He would hand over to son Maxime for the second stint, but in the opening stint of the race, not only was he crushing the opposition in class, he was also beating the Pro-Am entries as well. When the pit window opened, 1 or 2 of the PK Audis were in on different laps, but in early, whereas Henri Hassad left it as late as he could before installing his son Maxime into the car. That would lose its race lead, but still take a class win. And Stinus Langin, once installed, was just unstoppable, as he was able to build the advantage, not only to win the race, but also in order to increase that championship lead, as coming through for 3rd place in the end was Stefan Rossina of Philippe Zdadecka's KTM, but not enough to keep them in the mix in the championship. That car falling away by a good margin. Admittedly, there's drop scores to factor in, but they're on the back foot going into the final race of the championship later on. A good win then for Stinus Langin and for Nicolas Salins. It sets that car up very nicely indeed, with 1 race still to come. So delight for Nicolas Salins and Stinus Langin, winners of race 1 of Fanatec GT2 European Series here at Paul Ricard this weekend. And they could well end the day as champions. We shall find out later on, with one final 50-minute race to look forward to on track at 10 minutes to 6 local time this evening for the last race of the championship. So let's have a look at the results then. Confirmation of the win for Nicolas Salins and Stinus Langin by just over 4 seconds in the end, from Kevin Wieder and Anders Fjordbach, Philippe Zdadecka and Stefan Rossina. A distant 3rd ahead of Peter Gulinks and Bert Langin, with Aurelius Rustica and Michael Vergers in 5th. 6th, the class win for Maxime and Henri Hassad. 2nd in class, 7th overall, Gianluca Giorgi and Alessandro Baccani, and Stefan Rattel and Luca Piri coming home in 8th place, despite the stop-go penalty that car picked up. Klaus Angerhofer and Hubert Trunkenpolz next, with Leonardo Gorini a retirement, Gilles Vannelet a retirement, and we lost also Chris Rosenberger and Sedi Sarmini as well. So, we'll look forward to seeing you for race 2 later on in the day. For now, from David Addison at Paul Ricard, it's goodbye.